Hey everybody, welcome back to Simply Cerisa, and as promised, here is my 3-day super soup restart cleanse idea. Now, just to make sure you know where this came from, I do go to a professional nutritionist and it was recommended to me by him. You know, there's just so many times in our lives where we just start to feel a little sluggish, our gut health is a little bit off, maybe we've indulged a little bit too much, and we just need to kind of get a restart. So I tested this out 3 days before Christmas, and I can tell you I'm still feeling the benefits of it. It is fantastic. It also helped keep me on track during the holidays. So I wanted to make healthier choices after I actually did this cleanse. So I can't recommend it enough. I'm super excited about it. And what it is it's actually based off of Dr. Oz and a TV show that he did. So I'm going to put all of his links below because you have to give credit where credit is due. The recipes are also included. So what they are there's a breakfast recipe and then there's 3 soups, 2 of which are vegan, and all of this is dairy-free. It is nut-free, and it can actually be made gluten-free if you make sure that about 3 of the items are gluten-free ahead of time. So this is just the perfect restart for anyone. All right, now let's get started. I am starving. It is breakfast time, so I just want to show you how quick and easy this is. First, the trick is you take your blender. Again, it doesn't need to be a fancy one. You take your ½ cup of rolled oats, throw them in dry with nothing else. And I'm about to give you a little bit of ASMR for foodies. All right, the reason for that is you actually just want to pulverize the oats. That way you're not drinking big chunks and it doesn't make it super hard to drink later. It's actually a genius tip. Then you add your 1 cup of water. Blend that up until it's liquefied. Okay, now you've got your base. And just as a side note, I tried it and this recipe plays really well with any other supplements or fiber that you might add. So if you're drinking fiber on a regular basis, or for example, you add omegas or some other supplements, collagen, for example, I would add that in during this dry process, because then you can get all your stuff in at once and it doesn't really change the taste very much depending on what supplements you have. Okay, now that you have the oatmeal and the water all blended up, you basically just add everything else. So I'm going to add my frozen berries, my teaspoon of stevia. Of course, you can add more or less to taste if you want, but the recipe recommends stevia. You add your little bit of cinnamon. I kind of love cinnamon, so I add that in there. Then you add your ice. Blend that up. There we have it. This is mine. Again, I just use my 20-year-old austerizer to prove that you could still do any of this in even just a cheap little blender. But of course, if you have like a Ninja or a Vitamix, something else like that, your smoothie is going to be 100 times smoother than mine. But this is what I'm working with today. And this is my breakfast on the Detox. The next 3 soups really truly couldn't be easier, and everything is so accessible. Now, I'm gonna venture to say if you don't have any of these ingredients at all and you wanted to make all 4 recipes for 3 days and the full-size recipe, you probably are going to spend about $40 at the grocery store. And that's a really reasonable price considering you're going to be eating about 5 meals a day for 3 days straight. So fortunately for me, I did have several of the items on hand. I already had some organic chicken breast. I do always keep coconut oil on hand, and I always have a few options with gluten-free broth. So mainly what I had to purchase were a lot of the vegetables, and I had to purchase the wild rice for the chicken soup. So I'm not gonna go through every recipe and how I made it, but let me just say, if you're fairly good at multitasking, many of the vegetables overlap in the recipes. And I had one recipe done in 15 minutes. And while that was simmering, the vegetable soup, while it was simmering, the chicken soup and wild rice is actually made in your crock pot. I was so happy to see that. So what I did was I just chopped all the vegetables for 2 of those soup recipes. And as I was processing the one on the stove, then I threw everything into the crock pot for the chicken and rice recipe, set it and forget it. That's how that works. So I was ready to go with dinner for my chicken soup. It was perfection. Here is a quick look at the beautiful vegetable soup. Now mine, I made a little bit thicker and heartier by actually taking part of it and using an immersion blender just to kind of make it a little more creamy. But when you first cook this up, it's going to have a very, very brothy look with lots of huge chunks of vegetables. But again, I like mine to be a little bit thicker and heartier, but I didn't want to obviously add anything, so the immersion blender worked like a dream. This is my favorite part of the detox. For someone who likes food, you cannot go wrong. I would much rather do this than drink juices all day long. So beautiful, helps your immune system, chicken, wild rice, fresh veggies. Now that's hearty, that's something I can do and still be super active and work out. At this point, I'd like to give you a quick review of how I felt about the overall 3-day experience and give you a couple of tips and tricks if you choose to try this super soup detox. Now, the first thing is read the directions. I unfortunately got a little bit too excited. I wanted to do it as soon as I got the link, and I didn't bother going through and actually watching the Dr. Oz and Dr. Haley video that explained a few things. So what I did was I cut the recipes in half because it was just gonna be me. And then I immediately came home, I made the breakfast drink, drank that down, ran to the store, and then started making the other 2 soups. So I didn't really think it through as far as what I was eating versus my activity levels. What I should have done was had the chicken soup prepared, because on my first day, I actually did 2 different workouts and I was so hungry and I needed protein badly. Then, unfortunately, I thought I was only supposed to eat the breakfast, the lunch, and the dinner. I didn't realize, this is key, that you can have these things multiple times throughout the day. She even says unlimited times throughout the day. And that would have really saved me a lot of grief and a lot of wanting to cheat on this thing. So I learned that a few days into it. What I also learned is that this makes a lot of food. I had leftovers and I actually froze them for a few days because when I was done with the whole thing, by 3 days in, you kind of don't want to eat those soups for a few more days. But it was actually really good. The second thing I learned from this was that I had some real food addictions, and that my relationship with certain foods was really eye-opening once I really limited what I was eating for those few days. I realized that, man, I love cheese and basically dairy in general. This is a completely dairy-free diet detox, and I couldn't have dairy for those 3 days. It actually taught me that I was really relying too much on certain animal products and on dairy in general. So it really helped me to cleanse my system from that. And I realized that since I stopped this detox, then I'm actually craving dairy a lot less. The third thing that I learned was that actually healthy choices kind of beget healthy choices. Now, I know that it wouldn't be for everyone to try this 3 days before the Christmas holiday or before one of your biggest holidays that you're gonna have, but I wanted to really test this out and see what the longer term effects would be. So in making those healthy choices for 3 days in a row prior to when most people are indulging and having lots of cookies and big heavy meals in front of their faces, I was actually able to not crave most of those things and walk away from a lot of the, what I would call more unhealthy choices that I would normally make during the holidays. The fourth thing that I wanted to mention, and I want to be really careful here, is because I know that when people do detoxes, oftentimes they're trying to lose weight. Now, I did get on the scale before and I did get on the scale after, and there was a 4-pound difference. But I just want to caution you in that I'm not going to say I lost 4 pounds of fat in those 4 days. I'm just going to say that my body actually was detoxing and it got basically a lot of stuff out of me, and I feel a lot lighter. My stomach area doesn't have quite so much of that like busted biscuit muffin top feeling at all, and I actually still feel that way several days later. So I'm super happy with the results of that in itself. The last thing I wanted to mention goes back to following the directions. Now, like I said, I didn't do it quite right at first, and the next time I do this, which I'm probably gonna try to do this approximately once a month, at the very least, I'll probably do it either before and maybe after I go, like, you know, on a vacation or, you know, on a week that we have a lot of indulging going on. And that's the cool thing I can use this, is that it's so much better to me than something like juicing, which is really hard on your gut and can actually cause things like canker sores and whatnot if you're really out of balance, and also just so much hunger, especially if you're a person that's very active and works out a lot. So the fact that I could pick and choose and I could eat rice and chicken and broth and actually something of substance to chew on, that changed everything for me, and it made the detox so much more doable. And the breakfast was such a surprise. I actually love it, and I've been doing it almost every morning since then, just because it's something so easy to do, and it's a kind of a grab and go situation, and it's actually kid friendly. All these recipes you can make anytime, and you can just incorporate them into your weekly meals. And I would say that if you put the right seasonings in it, your family, your husband, your children, your wife, whoever you live with, is actually going to want to use and incorporate these menu items throughout the year. So that's a big win for me. That just added, you know, 4 more recipes to my arsenal. All right, that does it for me and my 3-day detox review. Again, just a big thank you to my nutritionist and to actually Dr. Oz and that TV show, because that's something I would have never found otherwise. I will put the links below. I will put the actual like blog site thing that they have. I will put the video that I watched below, and I believe they have an actual recipe and grocery shopping list link. So it's all gonna be posted for you in the description box below if you're interested. Feel free to message me or to leave any comments on some of your favorite detoxes and restarts, reboots, and when you like to use them throughout the year. It's just always fun to learn, you know, more stuff about this. So anyway, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.